Het-Heru, Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, Never. This is Het-Heru with another broadcast for you. So, this morning I woke up thinking about what's going on in the world. And as an empath, you take on the problems of the world. Being an empath is great because you can really put yourself in the position of other people and really show empathy for them. But at the same time, you're psychically open to feeling things. Especially if you're Pisces, you start to, feel what others are going through on a massive scale. So if the world is in turmoil, you can actually feel that. And as you get older and you get wiser, you start to be more concerned about the world. When you're young, you're just like, I don't care, I want to have fun, I want to party, I want to do this. And you're not, the world is screwed up when you're young, but you're not so much concerned about fixing it. You're just like, hey, I was born into this mess, I didn't create it. But then, as I said, as you get older, you start thinking about how messed up it is and how you can fix it. And therein lies the issue. And on my spiritual journey, just giving you some insight, I thought that I knew that when I started in the priesthood that you would have these abilities and powers that you would come into that the ruling elite didn't want you to know about. And I was fascinated by that. And I said, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have an opportunity to correct things and change the world. You know what I mean? So as you get into that, as you dive into that, and many people that I've taught and had conversations with get to a point in their studies to where they get very frustrated and they feel like they reach a plateau. And I'm like, well, what's the issue? And they're like, well, you know what? I am now able to understand that it's my reality. I'm creating this based on my thoughts, my actions, my perceptions. Reality doesn't exist apart from the observer, yada, yada. I know all of that. But yet, I'm still seeing things that are wrong. I'm still seeing that the people who are in control of the planet, who put the planet in this sort of prison, are basically psychopaths. Why are they still there? How come I haven't shifted to a parallel world where they're not there anymore? Or why am I not living in a more harmonious universe or planet? And I said, well, that's a very good question, And to that I say, well, the world is in turmoil because you are in turmoil. That's where it's coming from. Now, you have people who are in the spiritual community, New Age community, who will tell you that, and especially we've all heard Michael Jackson's prophetic words where, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. That's where the first change starts, which is absolutely right. But the thing is, I think what most of these communities, these spiritual communities are missing is that, adapting a spiritual way of life to where you could perform rituals and you can astral project and things like that is great. It's going to enhance your life. It's going to bring you a sense of control and a sense of amen or peace. But we have to understand that truth, which is ma'at, is nothing without tehuti. And tehuti is the measure. It's how you apply that truth. And unfortunately, we live in a world where tehuti almost is not extinct. It doesn't exist. What we have now is we have a bunch of scholars and so-called brilliant men who think because they can write a law in a book and apply that law unevenly that we now live in a civilized society. Well, no, we don't. And I've said this before in the broadcast that there is no justice in our justice system. It's corrupt. And because what we do is the law is afforded to individuals who have the money to hire an attorney, who have connections to sway things. And that is not what our ancient ancestors wanted the world to be. The law is meant to be used and applied with tehuti. It is not used for the sake of dogma. It is not written in stone because we live in an energetic universe. meaning that it is responding to your thoughts and definitions, right? So therefore, how can you apply a law to an individual without first understanding what's in the heart of that individual? You know, we have such harsh labels for individuals who commit egregious acts in our society. But you have to be careful of that, because you've got to first look at society itself has to be on trial. Because you have to say, from the moment this person was born, has society created an environment to nurture and foster this individual's development? And if you haven't done that, then the fault is not with the individual, the fault is with society. But what we do is we tend to lock the individuals up in mass incarceration. And then we think we're doing something. You're not getting to the actual root cause of the problems in society. Yet, you're just looking at the external effects and think because this person is addicted to drugs that they're a deviant, they're sick. No. Who put the drugs out there in the first place? Who created a situation to where the family structure was so disrupted that this individual did not get the support and nurture that they needed to develop into a full adult? And I've said this before, you have individuals out there who are sociopaths. And they're very dangerous individuals. I'm not talking about the ruling elite, I'm talking about the mass population of people that you see every day going to work, walking down the street. They're sick. But we don't want to address this in society. And especially the ruling elite knows that in the minority community, there are a lot of people with mental illness. You can't go through something like slavery, oppression, discrimination, and not come out tainted. And the same thing for women in our society. Women are very right-brained. So you can't have a society that doesn't recognize the female principle or the female energy, and don't create an environment that gives them a voice, and then expect them to come out fully adapted and sane individuals. No, there are a lot of women in our society, and statistics has even validated this, especially with white women, who are on medication for mental illness. And we don't know what the numbers are for minority women of African American descent, or Latino women. We don't know what those stats are, because they're not. You see, they don't want to do those stats because they're not interested in fixing the problem. But here's how we have got to fix the problem. Now, people say, you know, well, I've adapted a spiritual way of life, and I see that the world is full of all these Sahu people, so I'm going to go off the grid. I'm going to separate myself from them and take my family, and we'll homeschool our kids, and we'll just form our own little community. No, no, that is not how it works. That is not what you should be doing. The Dalai Lama, considered the holy man, is not a spiritual man. You know, anybody can be spiritual if you're going to lock yourself away in some temple or on some mountain and have servants cater to you, and then you just sit there 24/7 coming up with philosophies. Today my philosophy is war is bad. Today my philosophy is the future is about sharing. That's infantile thinking. Of course, anybody could say those things. But the real test is being in this crazy world, surrounded by crazy people, and maintaining your peace and your spirituality within. Now, let me give you the secret on how we can save the world. And I'm not talking about save the world through an external savior or intermediary, because that's bullshit. Sorry, I have to go there, but I'm really just tired of this whole idea that you need someone else besides yourself to save the world or save you, when God, Neter, Yahweh, Allah, has given you so much power within, and we just let it stay dormant, because those in control want us to stay in an arrested state of development. The truth of the matter is, if you are adapting a spiritual way of life, I don't care what religion it is or whatever, or if you're in a covenant, or if you're in a temple, or if you decided to just break away from society and form your own little community where everybody's spiritual and you're living in a desert and some cabins or whatever, I don't care, but the thing is, what I'm saying is this: the world is in turmoil and screwed up because of you. And many people that I've talked to who've gone on the spiritual journey, who've been in this spiritual thing for 20 years, have still yet to realize that. They have still yet to realize. But partially they understand it, but a partial understanding is still an incorrect understanding. So they think this is what they think. They say to themselves, well, I understand I'm Osir, and Osir is within me, and he's waiting to be resurrected. And I am fully in support of that, so I strive to be Osir every day. And I have learned that I do have power to manipulate reality, and that when I do my rituals and meditations, I can see a change in the environment. But Kasalak, I'm not seeing a massive change to where the ruling cabal are gone and the world is full of peace and harmony. And I said the reason for that is twofold. Number one, you may have come here to be a guiding light to those individuals who are on their own path. So that may have been your incarnation, to stay in a world or a parallel world where you need to take those people and show them the way. But that is for people who have become enlightened and they've chosen to come back to earth to lead others. The other thing is this, and this is probably the most common and what you should mostly focus on. If you are just selfish and you're talking about how you're trying to become Osir, and you love Ma'at, you love Het-Heru, you love Aset or Isis, you love Hathor and Aphrodite and all of these gods and goddesses, and you paying them tribute, and you got your shrine to the ancestors, but the world is not going to change as long as you accept the labels and definitions that society is throwing out your way. Do you understand that? I don't care how spiritual you think you are. You could know all the tenets of Ma'at. You could be a perfect example of Osir or Jesus or Christ or Krishna. But if you accept the labels and definitions that society throw your way, then you are the cause of the things in your world. Boom! Let me say that again. If you accept those labels and definitions, Sebek, left brain thinking, then you are the cause of the problems in your world, and you need to start looking at yourself. So, what am I saying? I'm saying this, and I've said it many times. If you subscribe to the Hegelian dialectic, if you subscribe to the idea that there's good and evil in the world, well, guess what you are going to manifest in the world that you live in? Boom! Good and evil. A battle. I have told you guys many times, and I've given this analogy about the computer who was playing the game of who would win a nuclear war against the Soviet Union against the United States. Who would win? The computer, and this is in the movie War Games. You can see that movie. It's a movie in the 80s. And the computer did the simulations, the scenarios, and then came out and said, you know what? The only winning solution is not to play. So what I'm telling you this is that these individuals who control the planet are smart as hell. These individuals have created genes, and they engineered other individuals to be brilliant and to be able to scan timelines, to have the most highest technology there is, to have cures for everything, and they covet this. They live in this secret world and not sharing this with anybody. So you have to think about who you're up against. So understand that you are just as brilliant as them, but you haven't allowed yourself to be that way because they're out there manipulating reality in the sense that they are subliminally feeding you these labels and definitions, and you are subscribing to them. And they know that you are a reality generating machine. They know that whatever post-hypnotic suggestion they give you, you will, your subconscious mind will work to create that world. They know that. So in other words, when I am with individuals and friends and family, when I hear somebody talk about something that I know is not in alignment with Ma'at, I immediately dismiss myself from the conversation because I know I'm an empath, right? And I know that I'm very right-brained and I'm a Pisces. So what am I saying with all that? I'm saying that whether I like it or not, my subconscious mind, the spirit within me, will take what they're saying, take it in internally, believe it, and then project a reality that corresponds with that. And then I'm asking, why is the world so messed up? I'm living spiritual. My diet is good. You know, I meditate every day. I do the ritual. I got my ancestor shrine. That's because, without me realizing it, I am subscribing to all of these erroneous things, these definitions, these labels that have no objective reality. And then I'm manifesting that, and that's creating the world before me. Understand this other aspect of the secret, which is, you know, this is the real secret, not that bullshit CD or DVD they put out years ago, which was all about just getting money. The secret is this, plain and simple. The individuals that you are interacting with on a daily basis, the physical reality that you see does not really exist. It doesn't. It's all a projection of what is going on within you. And it's being projected outward as a fourth dimensional hologram experience so that you can interact with it. That's all it's there for. And it's also a feedback loop. It's telling you what's going on in your psyche. So when you are in a circle and you have people talking about, oh, I don't like the way that I see all these men in the media, you know, who are molesting these women. I'm for the Me Too movement. And then you've got to then take a step back and say, well, is the Me Too movement about balance and harmony? Or is it just looking at one side and creating a movement based on bias and prejudice? So you have got to have a high understanding of Ma'at and Tehuti, and then you have to make sure that you have your filters, and like in Star Trek, your shields. My shields are up. I am not accepting erroneous beliefs and labels and definitions. The other day, I was having a conversation with somebody online, and you know, you get these social justice warriors or these people in the LGBT community who have been taught to be bullies, and that if you don't accept their way of life, then they call you names and stuff. So I'm having a discussion with this person who considers themselves gay, or whatever the term you want to call it, right? And they're asking me, well, do you believe that gay people go to heaven? Because they expected me to say no. I said, of course they go to heaven. If you subscribe to the definition of heaven, you know, which I don't subscribe to heaven. But then I stopped the conversation. I said, listen, let me explain something to you. As a priest, I understand that we are consciousness. That's who our real essence is. We are Osir. So I don't like saying this person is gay. You know, I said, I don't like that term. I don't like the definition of that. Because what that does is it confines who you are, which is infinite potential with no beginning, no end. You've been here billions and trillions of years, and you will be here for another billion and trillions of years because you're immortal, you know, your consciousness. So how am I going to box that into a three-letter word? Do you understand what I'm saying? And the reason why that's done, because we live in a society that's left brain, and it cannot perceive abstract ideas. So when you say God is not a physical entity, it's not a man, it's not a female, God is all that there is. God is the one coming as the many, and the many are the one. That's a very hard thing for Western man to conceive of. This is why you have these old scholars who thought they were brilliant, but you know, when you read their work, it's just full of errors. You know, it's messed up, and they know it's messed up. So what they do is they go back and read the ancient writings of the Chinese sages, the African shaman, and then they come back and they republish it and say, "Oh, I have discovered that there's a thing called quantum mechanics." And I'm like, wait, didn't the ancestors talk about that? I have discovered a new star system. Well, didn't the Dogon discover that? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they're not good at perceiving the abstract. So when they talk about God, it has to be a physical being. You know, this guy with the white beard, you know, sitting up in his cloud in the throne. Because they can't visualize God abstractly. Of course, it's difficult. Which is even in the Bible, which it says, you know, you shouldn't have, you know, what is that? Create an idol or image of God. You shouldn't do that, because how can you contain God in a freaking image or statue? Now you're saying, well, Kassan, don't you have Ma'at, Tahuti? You have images of them, which is, you know, isn't Tahuti the head of an ibis bird and the body of a man? Those are aspects of God. That's God coming in our world in those aspects or those faculties of God, which is more of a correct word, but that is not God itself. Tahuti is God's wisdom. Do you understand? Sekert or Ptah is God's power. Amen is God's peace and God's hidden essence from perception. Ra is God's fiery energy. So let's get that straight. Let's get that straight. Hence is why the Egyptologists and all these historians said, well, it's a society that was based on polytheism. They didn't have a concept of one God. Yes, we did. We understood that the one comes as the many. See, they can't perceive that. They don't understand that. It's that, going back again, is a Hegelian dialectic. It's either you're monotheist or you're polytheist, or you know, but you can't be both. Yes, you can, because there's a thing called synthesis. When you look back in history, and when the European conquerors went into Africa, the colonists, and you know, those pretending to be religious missionaries, and took African people and enslaved them, especially the priests and priestesses, and brought them here to the Americas, or the New World, or whatever you want to call it, and told them that they can only practice Christianity. This is what they told them. This is according to history, right? And they anointed these priests and priestesses as taskmasters. So they would go and preach Christianity to the other slaves to pacify them so they wouldn't be a rebellion or uprising. But when they went down into the slave quarters to the shrines that these priests and priestesses had created, what did they discover? They discovered that these shrines had the Virgin Mary, but also had statues of Isis and Hathor and Neb-Het. And the Western man said, how are you practicing both? And the African man says, I see no contradiction. I see no contradiction in practicing both. I see them working well together. That is because the right brain is synthesis. It looks to bring things together, while the left brain is always looking to separate things and see how they're different. And that's the world we live in, polarized in left brain thinking, to where it doesn't have the capacity to reconcile opposites. So hence you have a judicial system that is corrupt. You have a world that is corrupt. But again, going back to what I was saying, that the world is in turmoil because of you, is if you put your shields up or put your filter up. Now your filter is called NECA. NECA is a psychic filter, and symbolized by a serpent in ancient Kemet, which prevents all of those subliminal things from hitting you. In fact, I wish I had the image of NECA. Well, let's put it on the screen, okay? Let's go to the video. Let's put NECA on the screen here, okay? Awesome. All right. So this is the image of NECA, and therefore you understand that our ancestors even knew that there was psychic subliminal suggestion, which could get you to unwillingly and subconsciously accept erroneous labels and definitions and then manifest that as part of your reality. Remember, you are not having a cooperative experience, meaning that the individuals in your life are just merely avatars. They're projections of you. You made an agreement with these individuals to create an avatar of them so you can have the experience, so that Netter, or first of all, the Oversoul, can understand God in his infinite potential. And I always equate the oversoul as a secret agent gathering intelligence. You know what I mean? And you are like an ambassador. You're having this experience and you're trying to get through it all diplomatically and then convey that information to the oversoul, and the oversoul conveys it to God. And God says, this is what I experience when I come in the form of Het-Heru. This is what I experience when I come in the form of Donald Trump. Interesting. And God doesn't look at it as bad or good. God just says, this is the experience. God would never look at something as bad or good. Because God's energy is at rest. It's peace. That's why in Ma'at, there's the practice of Neb-Het and Ma'at, which means keeping the heart still to live truth. Because you cannot live truth when you're excited and emotional. This is why you have these crazy judges sitting on the bench who are making decisions based on emotionalism. They have not learned to transcend their emotions. So anyway, my beloved, if you want the world to change, if you want to quantum leap to that ultimate parallel reality where you have people who are just and upright, then you have to put your filter up and stop accepting these things. Does that mean that you're going to have to separate yourself from certain friends and family members? Yes. Yes, you are. Because you have not gotten to a spiritual level to where your subconscious can differentiate. And your subconscious is not going to do that because that's not what it's supposed to do. Your left brain is supposed to do that. Remember? Separate. So until you reach a certain level of where you can teach the spirit within you to not accept those things and create that reality, then you're going to have to be very careful of things. You're walking down the street, you know, you're going to have to watch what you're looking at in terms of advertisements and things of that nature. I mean, I just rewatched the documentary on the film They Live by John Carpenter. Brilliant, brilliant film. In which Roddy Piper, who's the star, puts on these glasses and he can see all the subliminal messages on the street. But you can't see them until you put on these glasses. And that's the reality. That's how it is. You're not going to be able to see the subliminal suggestions unless you open your third eye. And they're making sure that you do not open your third eye. They don't want you to. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you're able to open your third eye, you will then you'll be accurately discriminating against what comes into your sphere of awareness, and then you'll project a reality that's more conducive and more harmonious to you. Anyway, I hope this message resonates within you. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and share it with friends and family members. And let's get this revolution started. Also, please become a Patreon supporter. You can do so for as little as $1. There's a next level, which is $5, and a level after that, which is $10. And as a Patreon supporter, you'll get exclusive access to content, which is really exclusive videos, tutorials, and ebooks and stuff that will take you to the next level. And that's information that can be available to just the regular people who are watching my channel. So I've given you a lot of food for thought. Food for the gods, because you're God men and God women. So this is Het-Heru. That's all for now, and Amen Ra.